The sky at dawn looked as if it had just awakened from a heavy night's sleep. Mist still lingered across the damp road, and the yellow streetlights cast a faint glow over the empty street near the international airport. The steady hum of a luxury car's engine cut through the silence. A sleek black vehicle glided past a row of low houses, the wet pavement reflecting streaks of light along its polished body. Behind the wheel sat Maya Thompson, a black woman with her hair neatly tied in a bun. Her face was firm, her eyes bright, though edged with fatigue. She wore freshly pressed pilot's trousers and a crisp, white shirt buttoned up to the collar, her uniform jacket with airline insignia folded on the seat beside her. Today, she was the captain of the first flight of the morning, carrying hundreds of passengers to another corner of the world, just like any other day. But today was not like any other day. From afar, red and blue lights began to flash. The sharp wail of a police siren tore through the calm dawn. Maya stiffened, glancing into her rearview mirror. A police car was tailing her, its lights blinking insistently. Frowning slightly, she slowed down and pulled to the side of the road. The window rolled down, letting in a rush of cold, misty air. She looked up, squinting as a flashlight beam struck her face. Two officers approached, one middle-aged, stern-faced, the other younger, his eyes sharp and almost overly alert. "License and registration," the older one said curtly. Maya opened her bag, her hands trembling slightly from the cold and the suddenness. "Yes, of course, officer. Is there a problem?" "That's a fancy car you've got there," the younger one remarked, suspicion in his tone. "Is it yours?" "Yes, it is," Maya replied calmly. "I'm on my way to the airport. I'm a pilot." "A pilot?" he interrupted with a faint, mocking laugh. "You don't really look the part." The air grew heavier. Maya pressed her lips together, trying to stay composed. She knew that tone all too well. That look that said she didn't belong in the car she was driving or in the life she'd built. The senior officer exchanged a glance with his partner, then gestured. "Step out of the vehicle, Captain." Maya opened the door, the chill seeping into her collar. She stood tall, hands lightly folded in front of her. "Officers, I only have 15 minutes before I must be at the gate. I can show you my airline ID." "No need for explanations," the younger one snapped. "We got a report of a stolen vehicle matching this plate number. You just need to cooperate." Maya opened her mouth to explain, but his next words froze her in place. "Turn around and put your hands behind your back." She stared at him. "Excuse me, what did you say?" "I said turn around," he barked. The raised voice drew attention. Residents peered out from nearby houses. A man walking his dog stopped, holding up his phone to record. Maya inhaled slowly and turned, unwilling to make things worse. The cold click of metal bit into her wrists as the handcuffs locked. A chill spread through her arms. "What are you doing?" she asked evenly. "I haven't done anything wrong. I'm the captain for Delta Airlines. I have identification." "We'll verify that," the officer said flatly. He nudged her toward the police car. She stumbled slightly, but kept her composure. From the corner of her eye, she saw people watching, some curious, some judgmental. A woman whispered, "Probably another car thief." Maya closed her eyes, drawing in a deep breath. The metal cuffs were cold, biting into her skin, not just physically, but somewhere deeper. Another officer began rummaging through her car, searching her purse, opening the glove compartment. The sound of things being shuffled filled the silence. "Hey, Mike, look at this. Some kind of flight chart and this ID card." "Let me see that," came the reply. A pause, then a skeptical grunt. "Captain Maya Thompson, where'd you get this fake ID?" "It's not fake," Maya said quietly, her voice trembling with restrained anger. "I've been flying for over 10 years. I'm certified. Be quiet. You don't need to explain yourself." Maya turned her head away, blinking back tears, not from fear, but from humiliation. She had faced turbulence and engine failures at 30,000 feet, but nothing prepared her for this, for standing in handcuffs on an empty street while strangers filmed her like a criminal. The morning wind picked up, sweeping a few dry leaves across the wet road. The distant sound of traffic mixed with hushed voices and the clicking of phone cameras. Maya stood still, eyes fixed on the ground, breathing evenly as if counting the seconds just to stay calm. Part of her prayed they'd realize their mistake soon. Another part ached with the familiar weight of knowing this wasn't the first time someone had looked at her and refused to believe who she was. A minute passed, then another. The younger officer spoke rapidly into his radio. "Dispatch, run the plate 7C5, black sedan, possible stolen vehicle." Static crackled, then came the reply. "Vehicle registered to Captain Maya Thompson. Address listed as the International Airport." The officer froze, glancing at the report, then at the woman standing cuffed beside him. "Wait, you're really a captain?" Maya lifted her head, her eyes steady, quiet, and full of weary pain. "I told you that from the start." Silence. The onlookers kept filming, but no one spoke. The senior officer stepped forward and slowly unlocked the cuffs. The soft click rang louder than before. I'm sorry, Miss Thompson. We were just following protocol." Maya rubbed her wrists, red marks clear under the dim light. She looked at him, not angry, not yelling. Just one quiet sentence, light as air but heavy as stone. "You only saw what you wanted to see." Then she turned, walked back to her car, and drove off through the mist. The headlights cut a bright path through the dawn as the two officers stood in silence on the empty road. The sky was turning pink, the sun beginning to rise. But for Maya, that morning carried another color entirely, the hue of prejudice and pain. "If you're really a captain," the younger officer cut in, "then why are you dressed like this? No name tag, no jacket, no ID around your neck. Who exactly are you trying to fool?" Maya looked at him, her eyes calm, almost cold. "I didn't have time to put on my jacket. It's cold, and I was in a hurry. But my ID card and pilot bag are in the car. You can check." He gave a short, mocking laugh. The flashlight swept across her face, the mist on her hair catching the light like tiny shards of glass. "All right then. Stay right there." He opened the car door and began searching. The sound of compartments snapping open, papers rustling. Maya's chest tightened at every sound. That bag had been with her for years. Inside were her flight logbook, navigation charts, handwritten notes, and a small photograph of her mother, who once told her, "You'll have to be stronger than the skies you fly through." After a moment, the officer pulled out a black flight bag embroidered with the airline's logo and a blue lanyard ID card. He held them up, raising an eyebrow. "This it? Your employee ID?" "Yes," Maya nodded. "My name is Maya Thompson." He shone his flashlight on the card and read aloud. "Captain Maya Thompson. Rank, Captain. Delta Airlines." There was a brief silence. Then he laughed, a dry, scornful sound. "Come on. One look at this, and you can tell it's fake. A big airline's ID wouldn't be printed this sloppy. If you're going to make a fake, at least make it believable." "It's not fake," Maya said slowly, each word dropping into the cold air like a weight. "You can call the airline to verify. I've been flying for over 10 years and have never had a complaint." "I'm not obligated to call anyone," the officer shot back. "My job is to maintain security, not listen to a criminal story." Maya said nothing. She looked down at the wet pavement, where the streetlight's reflection shimmered in uneven streaks. The chill made her shoulders tremble slightly, but no one noticed. The older officer nearby sighed softly and muttered, "Call dispatch and confirm the info. We should do this by the book." The younger officer exhaled sharply but grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, check license plate 7C5-221, black sedan. What's the registered owner's name?" A short pause. Then a crackling voice came back through the static. "Plate 7C5-221 registered to Captain Maya Thompson. Residential address, Atlanta International Airport employee housing." Both officers froze. The younger one frowned, disbelief written all over his face. "You're actually a captain?" Maya lifted her head. Her gaze was steady, deep, and drained of anger. Only tired, carrying an unspoken question. "Why is it so hard for people to believe?" "I told you that from the start." The air grew heavy. People nearby began whispering. "I think she really is a pilot. Oh my God, they handcuffed a captain?" The older officer shot his partner a sharp look. equal parts frustration and embarrassment. Take off the cuffs. The younger one hesitated, gripping the key tightly. What if the ID's fake, or the info's wrong? Do it. The bark command made him flinch. He stepped toward Maya and unlocked the cuffs. The click sounded loud and brittle in the cold morning air. Red marks ringed her wrists. I'm sorry, Miss Thompson, he stammered. We were just doing our job. Maya rubbed her wrists gently, her eyes steady on him. Not angry, not accusing. She spoke quietly. I understand, but sometimes doing your job doesn't let you see the person behind the face. She turned, walked back to her car, and slid into the driver's seat. Before closing the door, she said softly, I need to get to the airport. People are waiting for me. The car rolled away, its engine fading into the mist. The two officers stood still. The younger one watched her go, guilt flickering across his eyes. The older murmured, almost to himself, sometimes we can't see what's right in front of us. At the airport, dozens of passengers waited by the gate. Some were scrolling through their phones, watching a freshly uploaded video. The shaky footage showed a black woman in a white shirt, handcuffed by the roadside, surrounded by police and bystanders filming. The comments poured in. Must be a misunderstanding. No, she looks like a suspect to me. Poor woman. How could they treat her like that? Maya didn't yet know she had become the subject of that viral clip. As she hurried through security, the airport staff gave her the usual respectful nod, though their eyes widened when they noticed the faint red marks on the captain's wrists. She smiled faintly and scanned her ID at the gate. The announcement echoed overhead. Flight 782 to New York is now ready for departure. She took a deep breath, pulled her pilot's bag behind her, and walked on, her stride steady, her posture unbroken. But inside, the chill of that morning hadn't left her. It wasn't the cold of the mist, but the cold of suspicion, of prejudice disguised as procedure. She knew the red marks would fade, but the ones left inside her wouldn't. When Maya entered the cockpit, the morning sunlight streamed through the windshield, painting her face in gold. She looked out at the sky, vast, clear, and endless. Up there, no one asked who she was. No one questioned her skin. No one put a captain in handcuffs for not fitting their idea of what a captain should look like. The terminal door opened behind her, letting in a gust of cold air and white light. Her footsteps echoed against the polished floor, her uniform jacket swaying with each stride. She walked straight ahead, shoulders high, chin lifted, as if nothing had happened. But deep in her eyes, something fragile had cracked. A flight attendant ran up, breathless. Captain, everyone's waiting in the cockpit. We're almost past departure time. Maya just nodded. She said nothing. No one noticed that beneath the slightly longer sleeves of her uniform hid faint purplish marks, the trace of cold metal. She tucked her hands behind her back and walked through security. The airport staff greeted her with respect, unaware that just minutes ago she had been treated like a criminal on the street. Inside the cockpit, the control panel lights glowed softly on her face. The first officer turned, smiling. Welcome back, Captain. We were worried about you. Maya smiled faintly, a small, painful curve of her lips. I was just delayed for a bit. I'm fine. She fastened her harness, checked the instruments. Her voice was calm, clear, professional, just as always. But inside, everything was chaos. Then the radio crackled. Flight 782, you are cleared for takeoff. She replied evenly. This is Captain Maya Thompson. We are ready. The engines roared to life, trembling through the cabin. Maya looked out the window. The sun was cresting over the horizon, casting soft gold across the silver fuselage. Everything looked peaceful, so at odds with the storm still raging inside her. As the plane lifted off the ground, the city below shrank away. The street where she'd been handcuffed, now nothing more than a dark line in the distance. But the image wouldn't fade. It stayed etched in her mind like a scar. She drew a long breath, steadying herself. I'm the captain, she told herself. I have to fly. Yet even here, above the clouds, the place that once felt like freedom, her heart was heavier than ever, carrying the weight of the world she'd just left behind. While Maya guided the aircraft smoothly to cruising altitude, a very different story was unfolding far below. A bystander, the one who had filmed her being handcuffed, had uploaded the video to social media with a short caption. They handcuffed an airline captain just because she's black. The clip was less than a minute long, yet it spread like wildfire. Within hours, it had millions of views. Outrage erupted across the internet. Unbelievable! She stayed so calm. That's incredible. Is this what people of color have to deal with every day? Major news outlets quickly picked up the story. Images of Maya, the woman with calm eyes standing in the middle of circling police officers, appeared on every morning broadcast. She became a symbol of injustice and of dignity under humiliation. The city police department was forced to launch an internal investigation. Lieutenant Barnes and his patrol unit were suspended. A police spokesperson stood before cameras and read a short statement. "We regret the unfortunate incident involving Captain Maya Thompson. A transparent investigation will be conducted." But no statement could erase the humiliation Maya had endured. When her plane landed safely in New York, the passengers applauded. For them, it was just another smooth flight. For Maya, it had been the longest flight of her life. She powered down the engines, removed her headset, and sat silently in the cockpit. Sunlight spilled across her hands, the faint marks of the cuffs still visible. She brushed them lightly, her eyes distant. The first officer asked softly, "Captain, are you all right?" Maya turned to him with a faint smile, sad but proud. "I'm fine, just a little tired." She rose, put on her jacket, and stepped out of the plane. Passengers passing by smiled. Some even asked for photos, recognizing her from the viral video, shaking the nation. A little girl, about 10 years old, tugged her mother's hand and looked up at Maya with shining eyes. "Mom, I want to be a captain like her." Maya paused. She knelt slightly, smiled at the girl, and said softly, her voice trembling but warm, "Then never let anyone tell you that you can't." That night, Maya sat alone in her hotel room. The TV was still on, broadcasting news about her. Captain Maya Thompson, a symbol of resilience and strength. She turned it off. The room fell silent. She removed her pilot's watch, placed it on the table, and stared at her wrist. The faint marks still there, aching more in memory than in flesh. She sighed, whispering into the quiet, "I just want to be seen as a person." Outside the window, the city lights shimmered against the night sky. Amid those lights, Maya knew that while the truth had come to light, the pain remained. And sometimes, justice isn't about vindication. It's about the courage to keep moving forward, head held high, as if the wound never existed. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and smiled faintly. Tomorrow, she would fly again, because the sky was the only place that didn't judge by color. Underscore, 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 underscore. 3 weeks after the incident, Maya Thompson's name still dominated headlines, from national newscasts to online editorials. Public opinion split in two. One side outraged at the blatant discrimination, the other silent, unwilling to face the truth. But through the noise, Maya stayed silent. She gave no interviews, wrote no statements, blamed no one. She simply kept flying, taking off, landing, and greeting every passenger with her calm, professional smile. Yet her colleagues noticed something had changed. Her eyes, once bright with confidence, now held a quiet depth, as though carrying a story too heavy for words. Then came the day of the press conference. A large hall inside city headquarters. Cameras, lights, and dozens of reporters pressing forward for a view. Behind the podium hung a banner reading, "Public Hearing, Incident of the 14th. When the room settled, the door opened. Maya entered, still in full uniform, hair neatly tied, posture straight, gaze steady. A ripple of applause spread through the audience, not out of curiosity, but respect. Beside her stood Lieutenant Barnes, the police officer who had cuffed her. His face showed visible remorse. He stepped to the microphone, his voice shaking. "On behalf of the department, I offer our sincere apology to Captain Maya Thompson. We made a grave error in judgment and action. We accept full responsibility and commit to reforming our procedures so no one will face such injustice again." He bowed his head. The room fell utterly silent. Maya rose. She did not look at Barnes, but directly at the rows of cameras trained on her. Her voice was low but clear, every word deliberate, resonant. "I'm not here to seek justice for myself. I'm here because I know there are many others, like me, who could be next if we don't change the way we see." She paused, drawing a slow breath before continuing. "Every day, I carry hundreds of people, of every color, faith, and nation, safely across the sky. When they board my plane, they don't ask who I am, where I come from, or what color my skin is. They simply trust me, and I only wish that same trust existed on the ground." The room remained still. No applause, only silence, and the gaze of those who truly listened. Some reporters looked down, eyes glistening. Barnes closed his, burdened by regret. Maya smiled faintly, not the smile of victory, but of forgiveness. Then she said softly, "We don't need more apologies. We need to learn to see each other." The press conference ended, but her words did not. They spread across the world, replayed, quoted, and shared. Millions watched the speech, and many wept. Not out of pity, but because they realized awakening begins the moment we choose to look inward. A few mornings later, the sky was clear, sunlight draped over the runway. A massive Boeing 787 of Sky Airlines stood ready, its silver body gleaming in the dawn. Inside the cockpit, Maya sat alone, her hands resting lightly on the controls. The familiar hum of instruments filled the air like a heartbeat. She inhaled deeply, gazing out the window. The sky today felt different, not just beautiful, but forgiving. In the sunlight, she saw herself again. The woman who had once been handcuffed by the roadside, doubted for the color of her skin, yet still rose, still flew, and still believed the world could be better. She keyed the radio, her voice steady and confident. "This is Captain Maya Thompson. We're ready for Flight 109 to Seattle." From the control tower, a clear voice replied, "Cleared for takeoff, Captain Thompson. Have a safe flight. Have a safe flight, Captain Thompson." She smiled faintly. The plane began to roll forward. The engines roared to life, powerful, steady, sweeping away the last painful echoes of that night. As the wheels left the ground, sunlight flooded the cockpit. She looked down, the roads, the buildings, the entire city shrinking until it vanished into the white clouds below. Up here, there were no boundaries, no color, no prejudice, no doubt. Only humanity and the sky. Maya whispered softly, as if speaking to herself, or perhaps to everyone still misunderstood and judged unfairly. Freedom isn't about being able to fly. Freedom is when no one keeps you on the ground. Golden light bathed her face. Her eyes were calm, yet filled with a brilliance, the kind found only in those who have walked through darkness and found faith within themselves. The plane climbed higher, piercing through clouds, ascending into radiant blue. And there, in the open sky, Captain Maya Thompson held the controls steady, carrying with her an unspoken message. Sometimes it's our scars that make us soar higher. A peaceful morning sunlight filtered through white curtains, filling Maya's small apartment with warmth. The quiet hum of a coffee machine blended with the soft aroma spreading through the air. On the table, amid flight training manuals and photos with her students, lay a pale yellow envelope with no return address, only a shaky inscription. For Ms. Maya? She hesitated for a moment. Maya rarely received handwritten letters. In this age, nearly everything came by email or text. But something about the envelope made her pause. Opening it, she found a few handwritten lines, firm yet trembling. "I'm the officer who handcuffed you that night. I don't ask for forgiveness. I only want to say, that night, I saw fear in your eyes and shame in my own. I was trained to recognize danger, but I never learned to recognize the prejudice in my own mind. Thank you for choosing not to hate. At the bottom was a signature, Officer Daniels. Maya set the letter down and sat in silence for a long time. The ticking clock stretched each passing thought. What she felt was no longer anger, but a quiet sorrow mixed with compassion. She remembered that night. The flashing lights, the suspicious stares, the murmurs behind the police tape. Yet now, reading those raw, honest words, she realized something had shifted. She didn't reply to the letter, not out of coldness, but because sometimes silence is the gentlest way to close a wound. Still, she kept it, tucked neatly between the pages of her flight logbook, as a reminder of the fragile line between humanity and prejudice, between error and growth. Underscore, 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 underscore. Months later, Maya was invited to speak at a local aviation academy. She stood at the podium in her navy blue captain's uniform, hair tied neatly, her composure radiating quiet confidence. Below her, dozens of young faces, many of them girls of color, watched with eager eyes. Maya smiled, her voice warm but steady. The first time I stepped into a cockpit, someone told me, a black woman will never be a captain. But today, I'm not standing here to prove them wrong. I'm standing here to prove that we can rise above the limits others set for us. A thin, shy girl in the front row raised her hand. Ms. Maya, what if people don't believe in us? Maya smiled, walked down to the girl, and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Then believe in the sky, she said softly. It doesn't ask what color you are. It only asks if you have wings. Applause filled the room. And in that moment, Maya felt something greater than justice or recognition. She felt the power of belief being passed on. Underscore, 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 underscore. A year later, Maya's first training program officially opened. She called it Rise Beyond. Its mission was not only to train pilots, but to help young women believe they could command both the skies and their own lives. At the opening ceremony, Maya walked into the training room, sunlight reflecting off the polished captain's wings on her chest. Beside her stood the first class of students, 8 young women from different places, all sharing the same fire in their eyes. One of them, a girl named Tiana, stepped forward to speak. We know the road ahead won't be easy, but because of you, we believe that no matter how many times we're doubted, as long as we keep faith, we can still take off. Maya nodded, emotion rising quietly within her. Her gaze drifted to the back of the classroom, where a small wooden plaque was mounted on the wall. It read, "Fly not to escape, but to find yourself." That night, back home, Maya opened her old flight logbook. Between pages of recorded journeys, wind speeds, and altitudes, she paused at a faded sheet, the letter from Officer Daniels. She brushed her fingers over the uneven handwriting and smiled. She didn't know where that officer was now, whether he still served or had changed paths, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that he had found the courage to look inward and change, just as she had found the strength to move forward instead of remaining in pain. Maya closed the logbook and turned toward the window, where moonlight stretched across the quiet sky. In that stillness, she felt a rare peace. The past was no longer a wound, but the foundation of a new beginning. And tomorrow, when she stepped into the cockpit once more, she knew she wouldn't be alone. There would be new wings beside hers, young women carrying dreams, faith, and a light Maya had sparked from the darkest moment of her own life.